Greetings everyone. I hope mmekuwa na wiki safi. Welcome back to my channel. And before we start, as usual, kama huja subscribe, kindly take some time to subscribe and so that we may grow the channel na ifike mbali. Leo ningetaka tuongelee story fulani hapa yenye ni so interesting. Kama me realize in Christianity, which is one of the one of the religion. So kuna Islam, kuna Christianity, kuna kukua a Buddhist, kuna a plethora of religions, but one of the things zenye zina affect Christianity ni ati in Christianity kuna kuanga na hii friction ama conflict when it comes to being a Protestant and being an Orthodox Christian. So some of you might ask, who are the Protestants and who are the Orthodox Christians? In to put it in a more simple way, an Orthodox Christian is more of a conservative Christian. Think of it as you see, the Catholics, they are considered to be the Orthodox Christians, the early church, right? And then the Protestants, they sort of pull themselves out of the fabric of being an Orthodox Christian. So walienda kufanya vitu zao, wali interpret Bible in a different way. So they are not as rigid as the Orthodox Christians. So one of the issues between being a Protestant and being an Orthodox Christian, yati, for the Orthodox Christians, imitation of Christ is of key importance, is of much value. But when it comes to being a Protestant, yati, they consider the whole idea of the grace. Christ did it all. So kama Christ alifanya kila kitu, and then all you have to do is just accept that Christ did it all and then you are saved. But when it comes to being an Orthodox Christian, imitating life, they assume that whatever Christ enacted akiwa in planet Earth, you as an individual, you are obligated to do the same thing. So you confront pain, you confront suffering, all the things that Christ alifanya, that's actually you. So kuna hiyo friction ama kuna hiyo conflict. So which is which? Are we saved by grace ama should we imitate what Christ did? Hapo ndo kuna issue. So one of the people wenye walichukulianga hii problem seriously ni this guy mwenye anaitwa Dostoevsky. Now kuniuliza kama alikuwa anajua amesolve the problem ama alisolve unknowingly is something up for debate, but for now we'll assume alikuwa anajua kitu alikuwa anafanya. So Dostoevsky is the author that tunataka kuongelea leo, and one of his books, kuna kitabu inaitwa The Brothers Karamazov. Aliandika hiki kitabu wakati alikuwa anaishi in St. Petersburg, and in this book kuna these three brothers wenye wanaitwa Dmitri, kuna Ivan na kuna Alyosha. So think of these three brothers as the soul, the physical body, and the intellect. Not the intellect but the spirit. So Dmitri is the eldest son, ndio ana represent the physical body. Reason being, Dmitri is so impulsive. Number two ni Ivan. Ivan is the second born. Ivan is the intellect, is the intellectual amongst the three brothers. So yeye ni atheist, ni intellectual, and I believe that everything must have an explanation. The protagonist, the central protagonist wa hii kitabu anaitwa Alyosha. So Dostoevsky alichagua Alyosha kuwa the center protagonist because mtoto wake alikuwa anaitwa Alyosha, and the kid happened to die when alikuwa akiwa mtoto sana. So alikuwa anapenda mtoto, that's why he decided to name his central protagonist Alyosha. Now Alyosha ndiye represent spirit, and the reason I represent spirit ni because anaishi kwa the monastery under Father Zosima. So anamfunza, and then at the end of the day maybe atakuja kukua a catechist ama a priest, sijui the whole journey ya Catholicism. But anyway, kuna scene hapa ya Ivan na Alyosha. So Ivan anadescribea Alyosha hii sort of thing, like the friction between the Orthodox Christians na the Protestants. So kwa hii kitabu The Brothers Karamazov, he all thing, the whole ordeal ina happen kwa chapter 5. in actually it's the one of the greatest chapters kwa the whole book, inaitwa the Grand Inquisitor. For those who have read Brothers Karamazov, nikitaja Grand Inquisitor, you know what I mean. So in the Grand Inquisitor, Christ comes back to earth. Now this is Ivan explaining an explain story kwa, it's sort of an analogy, right, yenye anatumia. So explain to Alyosha, and then anaambia Alyosha, so the Grand Inquisitor, so this is how the story goes. Anamwambia Christ anarudi back to earth in Seville. Seville iko Spain. And so Christ anarudi, and then he's performing miracles, you know, preaching the gospel, educating people, you know, being all messianic and all that. And then there's this Grand Inquisitor who happens, you can think of the Grand Inquisitor as someone like the Pope, I'm a cardinal, I'm a priest, but and hold the highest rank when it comes to the Catholic Church. So the first thing that the Inquisitor does, after hearing what Christ is doing, the first thing anafanya ni he sends his guards waende ku arrest Christ, and that happened. So wanafanya vile the priest amefanya, wanaenda na the priest ame request, and they go arrest Christ. The following morning, see Christ amekuwa thrown into the dungeon. The following morning, what the Inquisitor does ni anaenda kuvisit Christ na kumconfront about vitu zenye amekuwa akifanya. So he gets to the cell, anapatana na Christ, and then he starts talking. So anaanza kuambia Christ, wewe Christ, you know, you're sort of the last person we need at the moment. The last time ulikuwa hapa, kitu uliachia binadamu is something we cannot live by. I mean, you left us with this moral code yenye ni ngumu sana for people to live by. I mean, what do you mean that we should live by the truth? What do you mean we should do A, B, C, and D? So Ali list all the things that he had a problem with Christ, and akamwambia no. So the last time ulituachia hizi vitu, na ni ngumu sana binadamu kuishi na hii ati sijui free will, sijui truth, sijui sacrifice, responsibility and all that. And we as the church, we took it upon ourselves to sort of create an intermediary, sawa, to create something hapa katikati enye ina prevent people from simply degenerating into nothingness. I mean, watu hawangeishi hivi. Now what the church did, and I represent the church, ni to create hizi vitu so as to prevent people from perishing. I mean, hakuna mtu mwenye atasema ukweli kila saa, hakuna mwenye mtu treat their neighbor the right way kila saa. It's so hard. So sisi tumejaribu create intermediary so that we can sort of water down the principles zenye ulituachia. Wewe wakati ulikuwa confronted na Satan in the desert, ukakuwa offered bread. So that's something approximating to security, and that's exactly what people want. People don't want free will. So this is what the Inquisitor told Christ. Remember, watu wataki free will. What people want ni vitu tatu, and these are the sort of things you're offered in the wilderness, in the midst of Satan. Satan alikuoffer vitu tatu. Number one, security. Alikuoffer bread, ukakataa. Actually, ungechukua your bread na uletee watu, you would have appealed more to people as compared to the way you appeal them while you are here. Number two, akaku-offer a mystery. And number three, akaku-offer a miracle. I mean, throw yourself from the highest pinnacle of the temple, and it's written that God sijui ataleta angels wake, and then they'll prevent you from getting to the ground. And so watu hawataki free will. According to you, wewe ulikuwa unaishi, ulikuwa unapreachia watu ati you have a choice of doing this, participating in oneness with the spirit of the transcendent. But no, people don't want that. Watu hawataki free will. People want security, and that's exactly what we provided the people with. So wewe kurudi sahi, you're sort of a problem, and we as the church, kenye tutafanya ni we'll have to get rid of you. So nimekuja hapa kukuambia we have no option, but we'll have to kill you the second time. So si anamaliza hii actually it was a monologue. Huyu Inquisitor ndiye alikuwa anaongea peke yake. So he stands up to leave the dungeon, obviously. So kenye na happen afterwards is even more interesting. Now this is what happens. So the Inquisitor si anasimama kuwa anaamka and then atoke. But wakati anaamka, Christ also anaamka pia. and then anaface the inquisitor, and then anamkiss kwa the lips, and then the inquisitor, this is how Dostoevsky alikuwa explain, he turns all white, he's shocked, ajui nini imehappen, because alikuwa na expect after ame accuse Christ of all these things, the Christ will make a counter argument, but that's exactly what Christ doesn't do. What Christ did ni alisimama, and then he gave him a kiss to sort of it's a... Anyway, so see the Grand Inquisitor amekuwa shocked and all that, anatoka, anafungua like the cell, and then anatoka, but what he does ni ati hafungi mlango, no. And this is where you sort of see the genius of Dostoevsky, because hapo ndio the whole solution, through the character Ivan alikuwa sasa anajaribu to come up with a concrete solution. He left the door open. So si Christ ako kwa jela, yes, but the Grand Inquisitor kutoka hakufunga mlango. It's not that alilock mlango then akaenda, no, he left the door open. So you might ask yourself, how is this relevant? How does this solve the problem? And this is how it solves the problem. So according to the Protestants, Christ did all the work. Sindio. According to the Orthodox Christians, you still have work to do. As much as Christ paid the price, you as an individual, you have some work to do. So the significance of leaving the door open inamaanisha, yes, as much as Christ did all the work, you still have something to do as an individual. So unaona hiyo ina solve the conflict between the two variables. It's like one party inasema ni grace, Christ did it all, but the other party inasema, wait a minute, there's something that's actually of more importance hapa, and which you have to do as an individual is to imitate the life of Christ. Unaona sasa, to leave the door open ni, yes, unaweza amua you reside in the temple ama the church as much as you can, you're allowed to, but that doesn't mean that you can't get out of the church na uende huko nje and you do something good for yourself. That's the solution. You can actually get out and do something for yourself. Sawa sawa. So indi na kujanga hapa, I have a problem with Christianity. I'm a Christian, because you people mmefanya atheists wame have a field day na the whole religion of Christianity, because according to the, especially, and this especially happens in Africa, ni ati tumechukua hii notion that Christianity, you have nothing to do. You have nothing to do. Christ paid the price, and you as an individual, what you simply have to do is accept that, and then kila kitu ita happens. Like, no, that's not Christianity. I don't know what that is, but that's not Christianity. Christianity is all about action. It's action based. So instead of where I have no problem against prayers. Sina shida kabisa. But that doesn't mean ati unakaa tu hivi there and then you wait for a miracle to happen. Let me tell you, nothing will happen. Utakaa hapo. Remember even when the Israelites were confronted by the Philistines, and then they went to the temple. So after the Philistines wamechukua, was it the Philistines ama ilikuwa nani? You'll tell me down in the comment section which community walikuwa wanapigana na the Israelites. Na wakachukua the Ark of the Covenant. And then the Israelites wakaenda kwa temple to pray, and then ilifika point God akawaambia, hey, you guys mumeomba sana, now I want you to go out there and fight your enemies. I don't know whether it was the Philistines ama ilikuwa tribe ingine. Just tell me down in the comment section. So what does it mean? Nyinyi wasee may allow hii notion that through prayer kila kitu ina work. Of course, and this is the reason. You see, there's no difference between praying and thinking. There's no difference. Ushaijiuliza kwa nini kuna wasee wenye hawaombi at all na things just seem to work around them? Like wakifanya kitu in any sort of endeavor yenye wana pursue, it just seems to flourish. It just seems to. But here's the reason why ina flourish. It's because, and this was discovered by Peterson, alikuwa na investigate what is the difference between thinking and praying. Well, there's no difference. If you just remove the religious overtone, kwa prayer, it's just the same thing na thinking. And you might ask, Evanol, what do you mean? See, when you're thinking, you have a problem. Otherwise, why bother think if you don't have a problem? So when you're thinking, you want to solve something, sindio? So you want to move from point A to point B, right? So what you're doing when you're thinking is you're trying to infer, ama you're trying to engage point B. Unaambia point B, I want to get to where you are, but I will need you to read out some of the things that will enable me take the necessary steps for me to get to where you are. Assume you're a student, so uko na CAT, and in this CAT unataka ku excel. So we'll say that your point B kwa hii situation is for you to excel, so you ace the CAT, you get an A, si ndio? So uko E point, haujafanya CAT bado, you're in point A, and your ideal place, right, is point B for you to excel in that CAT, si ndio? So when you're thinking of how to excel in that CAT, what you're simply doing is unajaribu ku negotiate, ama you're trying to have a dialogue na the success itself. Unajaribu kuambia hiyo niambie vitu zitafanya nifike kwako. That's what you do when you're thinking, is that you're trying to negotiate, ama you're trying to communicate na the place, the ideal place, ile kitu yenye umeconstrue as an individual to be ideal. Hiyo ndio unajaribu kufanya. You're trying to communicate. Niambie, tell me, what steps must I take for me to get to where you are? So for example, hizi steps itakuwa you have to sacrifice. Well, lazima ukae chini and you'll have to study. Number 2 ni you'll have to focus on certain topics for you to get to where I am. Now, hiyo ni thinking. The same thing happens when you're praying. You're in point A, for example, and you want to get certain results. And unaambia Mungu, nisaidie nipate results. So unaona bado kuna hiyo communication, because Carl Jung said, God is that which you construe to be an ideal. There's no difference between an ideal and God. Anything in your life that you have construed to be an ideal, that's your God. So you better ask yourself, ni kitu gani nimeconstrue to be an ideal? Ni kitu gani nimeplaced at the top of my hierarchy when it comes to perception? So that's the same thing. Ndo maana ninasema, like, there's no difference between praying and thinking. Hakuna difference. Hakuna. So ukiuliza why atheists ama wasengine wana seem to be non-believers wana get the results, that's the explanation. Ni jua wanajiuliza, okay, I'm in this sort of problem. Siamini kuna Mungu. Right? Mambo na spiritualism, to hell with that. But the thing yenye wanafanya ni the same thing na the Christians, the Islams, the Buddha, hizo ndo vitu wanafanya. It's just the same thing. Hakuna difference. Sawa sawa. So kuna bridge hapa between ile kitu unafaa kufanya na actualizing the thing. Hii kitu iko hapa katikati ni nini? Well, it's action. It's action. Unauliza mbona kuna mtu alikuwa ananiuliza, one of my friends aliniuliza hii swali, you say you're a Christian. I've never said I'm a Christian. Sawa, but unasema wewe ni Christian. Make a case why person A atapata majibu and person B hatapata majibu. So like, it's simple. It's action. Of course kuna vitu mingi zenye you can't control as a person. But that doesn't mean that you just sit and fail to act. No, you can actually do something about the situation that you are in. So instead of kuomba hapo kila siku ati umekosana na mtu ama umekosana na your business partner and then you go to God. Sometimes na feel God anakuangalianga kwa like, now look at this one. Instead of going to the friend and confronting the issue head on, amekuja kwanza kuniambia hapa vitu hata sitaki kusikia. Go. I mean, you know what you're supposed to do. But wengine wetu tumeamua kuspiritualize every negative emotion. Procrastination tumespiritualize, God will do it for me. Fear tumespiritualize, God's timing is the inasemanga aje, God's timing is the best, kitu kama hiyo. Like, no, hiyo ni upuzi. What do you mean God's timing is the best? Hakuna kitu kama hiyo. You have all it takes to be the best. You have all it takes to get to the place that you yourself have perceived to be an ideal place. So hii mambo ya kusema ati no, it's action. It's action. Now, am I insinuating that you'll be saved through your action entirely? Absolutely not, because kuna vitu zingine zina happen in your life that you cannot explain in totality. Huwezi explain. I think that's why kuna aspects za Biblia you cannot explain, like if someone tells you, Ebony, explain here how the is it called the Immaculate Conception occurred? Where's how? Tell me how it occurred. Siwezi explain, but you can explain why people worship the see Mary and Christ. You know why people? Why do people worship Mary and Jesus Christ, especially in the what Catholic denomination? It's simple. Any society that doesn't hold the maternal and infant institution highest, that's a good way of thinking about it. Any community, any society that doesn't hold the maternal and infant institution highest, well, it ceases to exist. Just die. Because how are you going to reproduce? How? How are you going to reproduce? Mtendeleaje? How are you going to continue with your civilization if you don't take care of your women and your children? How? Vitu zitaperish. So that was a strange segue, but at least we understand kwa nini nilikuwa nasema, like there are things in your life you cannot explain, but that doesn't mean that kila kitu unafaa kufanya is all about prayers. Like no, and that's where majority of us as Christians tuna go wrong. It's like tume spiritualize kila kitu, everything tume spiritualize. Hakuna mtu anasema oh wait a minute, wait a minute, what do you mean I'm supposed to pray up? No, I'm supposed to confront this thing exactly how Christ confronted the atrocities of the world. Exactly kenye Christ alifanya. So as far as church inatuambia that sijui pray nini, I'm not against it. Na nimewambia why I'm not against it ni juu ati there's no difference between praying and thinking. Hakuna. Mtu akuje, just come to my DM ama come to comment section, tell me the difference. Actually, this is a very good description of thinking. Thinking is secularized prayer. Just remove the spiritual part of it. Aye, hakuna difference. Hakuna difference. As a matter of fact, I'm willing to say this without fear of contradiction, as many Kenyans will say. All the time, what we are actually doing is we are praying. You know, kitu tunafanyanga almost all the time. Because kama hakuna difference between praying and thinking, well, you tell me. So you know kitu nilikuwa nataka confront this time, because ninaiona kila mahali sahi, before wase wafanye anything, I don't know, sijui no, it's like you formulate a plan, sawa, you present your plan to God. I don't know what you're worshiping. You present your plans to God. Namwambia, these are sort of my plans. Now you listen to that voice. In one of my videos, I explain the whole idea of consciousness. I think that's God in us, right? We are the temple of God. And if you are the temple of God, obviously the Spirit has to reside in us. Sawa. So yeah, think about that. So there you go. Have a blessed weekend. Ciao.